Welcome, everyone. We're going to be having a great time over the next several minutes. This is the Consolidate Disjointed Services and Applications to a Single System of Action webinar. I'm so excited that we're getting together today. We've got a great webinar planned. We're going to be covering customer success stories, use cases. George is going to be doing a great demo for us, and we've got a whole bunch of resources for uncovering the mysteries of consolidating to ServiceNow. My name is Bill Hansey. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager for ITSM, and my co-presenter today is George Rubio, Senior Technical Product Marketing Manager for ITSM. We'll review how your ITSM monster came to life. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a few seconds. Notice the keyword monster. And we'll review some trends and some barriers that you might be facing today in trying to make your change to a modern IT service management solution. Then George is going to walk us through some great use cases of ServiceNow and what you're currently trying to do with your existing legacy solution, and show us a really great set of demos about how you can relieve yourself of a lot of manual tasks and really join the modern age. And then lastly, we'll cover why consolidating ITSM tools onto the Now platform is a situation where 1 + 1 equals much better together. So a monster of a situation. I have a lot of empathy for you guys. If you're facing a monster of a situation and trying to manage and upgrade and maintain the infrastructure of your legacy on-premises solutions, that is overwhelming, and I've got a couple slides that hopefully you'll be able to identify with. So, what are the major trends that are affecting you? What are the trends that are impacting your efforts to modernize your services? The first trend we see is the need for digital transformation. It's been said that 72% of CIOs are leading digitization efforts, and that 2 out of 3 G2K CEOs say digital transformation is at the center of their corporate strategy, according to IDC research. The next trend that we see is the need for automation, or the need for using machine learning to automate. Our own research has found that 53% of surveyed CIOs said that machine learning is a key focus for them to improve their team's productivity and efficiency. And the last trend that we see is the need to consumerize the employee experience. Gartner says that over 90% of employees are spending too much time on manual, repetitive tasks, and that Gartner predicts that the use of chatbots will grow from around 1% today to almost 15% by 2020. It's a huge increase. These chatbots will help to lower the amount of time that employees are spending on common repetitive tasks and enable them to do much more meaningful and higher value work. So what is digital transformation? Digital transformation means different things to different organizations, but our customers are telling us that digital transformation means that they are focused on automation and simplifying work, while other customers are more interested in a better understanding of the metrics driving their business and delivering the delightful experiences for their end users and customers. All of these areas of focus for digital transformation are giving organizations the means to increase their innovation, the acceleration of their innovation, and the ability to stay ahead of the competition. So today, we're talking about consolidation of legacy on-premises tools. One of the ways that I think about how I grow my empathy for what you're facing is how do you do that? What does that look like, and what does that mean in the real world? Hopefully, you know the story of Dr. Frankenstein, the mad scientist who wanted to, that's interesting. Just had a little hiccup there. Okay, who wanted to create a being in his lab. As the story goes, Dr. Frankenstein would go out in the middle of the night into the cemeteries and dig up cadavers. he would then meticulously stitch them together, and we've got a little flaw. Hopefully you can see that. Stitch them together piece by piece, and then apply electricity. And then when he applied electricity, he created a being. It certainly was not holistic, not intelligent, and really not well behaved. That being was a monster, and that's analogous to the monster that you're having to deal with in dealing with your IT services on legacy on-premises solutions. Well, the net of all of this is Dr. Frankenstein couldn't manage the monster, and the result was some very unhappy villagers. So what does that look like in real world? The monster story is very similar to many stories that many IT teams are living in today, where piecemeal, old, loosely stitched together solutions, tools, devices, and applications are neither intelligent nor effective, and worst of all, they're not satisfying the needs of the business. As you can see here in this simple example, the IT team is living with legacy on-premises ITSM tools where they've got data, incident data, and analytics data, and change data spread all over the environment, making it very difficult for the team to manage their services and to have a clear view into what's happening with their services and with their infrastructure. This creates a whole lot of firefighting and really stifles innovation in their organization. So why aren't these teams, why aren't people moving full steam ahead to digitally transform their environments? Well, the first reason is disparate data. Having that data spread throughout the environment, they can't see what they don't know, obviously. Manual processes, being mired down and constantly firefighting prevents them from doing higher value work and more strategic projects. And what ends up happening is there becomes a constraint in budget because the art of the possible is no longer seen, and poor end user experiences means that budgets don't get attributed to IT. And then lastly, not having real-time visibility, not having a single source of truth, single CMDB, companies are really having a hard time justifying making the change. Okay, so there's a better way, and that's why we're here today. Unlike the monsters that you've been trying to manage, ServiceNow's Nonstop Cloud is available to everyone from any device, from anywhere around the world, 24/7. And by consolidating your IT services to a single system of action means that you can have all of the applications needed for productive and efficient services that all work seamlessly together. And the result of that consolidation of all those applications is delightful user experiences. People know where to get IT services. They know what to expect. They have push notifications so they know where their requests or incidents are in status. And the great thing about this, that according to Forrester Consulting, has found that the typical ServiceNow customer can see a 95% ROI with a 9-month payback and an infrastructure cost savings of $4.1 million. Significant. Now, seeing is believing. I'm going to hand it off to George, and George is going to run us through some common use cases and some great demos.
Thanks, Bill. So as Bill had mentioned, I'm going to cover a couple use cases, and then I'll actually get into a live demo so we can see kind of the reality of this Frankenstein, this piecemeal Frankenstein come together and actually, with ServiceNow, produce something that is not only automated, but quick, easy, and combines all the key functionality that today we present in the platform. So if you look at today, there's many IT organizations that look at, how they actually look at prompt identification and remediation of major incidents and how this is accomplished. Sometimes, it's a combination of luck and hope that's not actually looked at or discovered by others. A common practice today, and for many users, is they'll go ahead and submit a service outage via email into a common ticketing system, and that'll go into a queue with requests and a bunch of other different things as well. We'll then take this and enter tickets manually. We'll classify and assign them to an appropriate technician, help desk, looking for follow-up, which actually wastes a lot of time doing this process. Again, this is always manually done, so it could actually end up going to the wrong agent or to the wrong service desk in this case. So if you look at this, by the time we actually do reach a technician, there's other people within the organization that are also having that same problem, right? So this is then followed by a steady stream of incident requests into IT. That starts a whole triage of individual technicians working on the same issue. Now, as you can see, that's only going to create more and more problems as we look at this. Now, only when we raise this to a larger issue, right, do we actually start to look at what the visibility into what may have caused this particular outage, right? So the individual tech is actually kind of forced to go out and make individual calls, send emails to different departments. They'll phone up maybe development, operations, even the network admins in hopes that they'll, actually piecemeal a root cause together about what's causing this outage. Now, at the same time, there's business users trying to get access to these services and applications, and they're actually being impacted, on a greater and larger scale now. Now, when the actual issue is ultimately identified, the technician's either going to perform a fix or is actually going to request a change. Again, this is going to probably be through a manual process. And what the user is going to find here is that they'll be notified that the service has been restored through either an email or potentially even a phone call, but 9 times out of 10 here, it's going to be an email or some type of manual communication. And then a similar notification process is going to be done for all the other users that are impacted. So again, really to highlight just kind of the old piecemeal Frankenstein way of how major incident management's done. Now, with ServiceNow, what you see is a completely different process here. The major incident process is streamlined, it's automated. So we have these ITIL built-in best practices. So immediately from the start, we get a simple-to-use self-service portal that an end user can use to go in and actually describe the problem they're having. This can be done through a PC, through a web browser, through an iPad. Again, all the different mediums to enter that issue is available to the user. Now, from an outage perspective, they can go in and quickly identify through, again, I mentioned a number of built-in best practices, but they can enter a short description of the issue, submit that, and then through automated workflows and even machine learning, it'll go off and kick off an automated routing and assignment. So in this case, whether we're using automated routing through workflows or we're actually taking advantage of our agent intelligence machine learning capability, category and assignment group will automatically be generated and be routed to the correct service desk. Now, what we get here is if we leverage this unified interface across all the ITSM processes, and again, what allows this is this single system of record that we have within ServiceNow. Tech can review all recent calendars of change requests that may have impacted the service. They can look at dashboards, individual KPIs that actually may point out where a problem is actually identified. And if we look at the combined impact of that service to the business, it can actually detail urgency, and the proper escalation processes can automatically be put into place. Or potentially, the ticket could be reassigned as a major incident and kick off an entire larger workflow that I'll actually show you in the demo as well. Now, once the cross-functional teams get involved, so we're talking, as I mentioned previously, through the manual processes, it'd be emails and phone calls to these teams. But now we can actually pull folks from the dev group, from operations, from the network admin team, into a console or a workbench, and they can collaborate in real time. This can be through conference calls, emails, status updates that are all available through a standard workbench. And again, what this then provides is the ability to triage, resolve, and assign this incident before it actually becomes a major fire drill or a major impact to the business. And then finally, if we look at this, all the context of the incident can be available from any device, as I mentioned before, smartphone, tablets, and of course your PC. And as an end user, I'm constantly kept up to date throughout the process. And once a resolution or my service has been restored, I can be given a message either through an automated system. Again, it's part of that whole automation orchestration done on the back end through my mobile device. And, ultimately all impact users can be actually notified and updated here. So what does that bring me to? So if you look at ServiceNow's major and incident management benefits here, all in all, what we've seen through a number of different reports and efficiency standards is that Tier 1 agents will gain around a 20% efficiency gain, and this is at the service desk level. They'll be able to actually resolve priority 1 incidents in minimum at half the time. And then ultimately what we're able to do is bring these disparate processes and actually centralize them, whether it be, pulling in Tier 1 and 2 employees together to actually build and actually create a resolution for an outage across the entire platform. So that's looking at incident and major incident management. So let's talk a little bit about change. This is another use case that I'll cover right now. So let's look at it traditionally and back to Bill's term in the monstrous Frankenstein method. Normally when you initiate a change process, the type of change that you're going to initiate and whatever processes go along that, they usually need to be determined and identified first. So, today ITIL define 3 standard types of changes, right? It's normal, standard, and an emergency change. Now, in old Frankenstein legacy tools, these types of changes, they're not built into the actual applications themselves. So a change manager needs to go in and build the processes or adjust them for whatever change type that might be actually needed in this case. As always, this can introduce a number of different issues, whether they're operational or just compliance issues overall. So once that change has been determined, we determine the type, we then move into the next phase, which is typically the risk assessment phase. Now, in order to actually properly assess the risk that this change may present, that has to be evaluated across the business, right? We need to look at compliance issues, process issues, and actual technology issues as well. What will this impact? Now, each part of this is covered usually by a different team. There's usually different systems and tools in place to cover each one of those areas. So again, the complexity just starts to build here. Now, those teams, then they got to actually get together, exchange emails, notes, spreadsheets, whatever that may be, and this in turn becomes a very lengthy, complex, and in many cases, an inaccurate assessment. So all this work may be done for a risk assessment that actually isn't even valid in the system. So, that's a major problem in that case. So let's just say the risk assessment's been assessed. Now we need to initiate a CAB that would then pull the proper folks together to be able to review and approve those change requests that have been placed. Now these CAB meetings usually take place, quite frequently, sometimes on a daily basis, and a lot of times the folks that need to participate come and go or actually don't participate at all. And when they do come in, again, they're bringing their legacy data with them, whether it be in spreadsheets and emails. And a lot of times, most of the CAB meetings spent time just kind of reconciling that data to understand what's actually the source of truth in the overall change that they're trying to get approved here. So, again, really monolithic process behind the times, not something that's very good use of people's times, especially, when it comes to a major change that's going to affect the business. So then once the change is approved, it's got to be scheduled. Now we've got to look at the change calendars, and those calendars usually are bound to different technology silos. So because of the fact that they impact different teams, and those teams execute them in a different manner, again, aligning these change calendars can be problematic. But once those are actually aligned and we actually go to implement it, a lot of those things have to be done, again, manually. So there's really no orchestration on the back end, to kick off this change, to route approvals. So again, all that does is delay the change, could delay the impact of what potential service or application that's down at this moment because of this change. So again, really kind of archaic in nature. And then these logs are captured, but a lot of times in the end, they're also sent as emails. And at the end, this information that's kind of set to the side, it's actually not stored for review for later purposes when, similar changes need to take place. which would be great to have because they can reference that information. Now, let's look at this change process with ServiceNow. So kicking off the change process in ServiceNow, as I mentioned on the incident management side, we have 3 built-in ITIL compliant processes already defined within the solution: the standard, the normal, and emergency change. And each one of them provides guardrails to follow those processes and workflows, and ultimately they're there to actually reduce any risk and potential time. Now, risk assessments in this case are also done in an automated fashion. Because they're integral to the change management process, we actually can use the single system of record to get all the information relevant to a CI in particular that say it's going to be changed. So we can look at its upstream and downstream dependencies. We can look at the relevant business services that say a CI is part of. We can look at actually that CI's performance trends and analytics. Again, this all helps the stakeholders get a single view of the information without needing to actually leave the change management application. This is, highly important because instead of solo sharing the different applications in different areas, they're able to actually, consume all this information within ServiceNow within a single interface. So once the risk's assessed, we can actually use, again, within ServiceNow what we call the CAB workbench. And this actually streamlines the whole CAB meeting process. We can, through the workbench, we can actually plan, we can schedule, and we can manage the entire aspect of the CAB meeting through the workbench. If you haven't seen the CAB workbench today, it's something that I recommend you go out and look at. It's many people that have not seen it see it and be like, wow, we should have been using this a long time ago. It's really a powerful tool and allows for inline acceptance, rejection of actually the change management agenda items in general. So again, moving on, once the platform actually obtains the change approvals, those are monitored, they're logged, and they're actually stored throughout that entire change for reference for later use for, maybe future changes, something that was not available in those old archaic systems, right? The other beauty of this is that it can be accessed, again, through a mobile device, iPad, iPhone, whatever mobile device you may use, as well as a standard laptop. And what this gives us the ability for folks in the change approval process to be able to, on the go, look at, actually participate within a CAB meeting and approve or reject changes that are part of their organization. Finally, when a change is actually now ready for implementation, within ServiceNow you can use the built-in workflows, orchestration, flow designer nowadays, and actually build automation to kick this change off in a completely automated environment, right? So the whole process has been significantly simplified and expedites it, again, end-to-end because, and I'll show you in the demo, but in many instances now you're reducing 15 tasks that would have been kicked off manually as part of this change process. It's now built into a nice, clean, and easy, streamlined workflow. So what does this give us? So in all, using the change management application and the benefits within ServiceNow, you quickly and easy, you can look at a 25% reduction in high priority and critical incidents. And then as part of the integration with incident management, problem management, you can actually take full advantage of the life cycle of the applications across the board. So and then what does this provide? It moves us from that Frankenstein model, as we were seeing, onto a much more agile, futuristic, more of a digital transformation model that allows us, to leverage and reduce time across the platform. Now, with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'd like to walk through a quick demo that encompasses a few things here. And in this case, what you'll see is, let me just give it up. Okay. Seem to be sharing. We'll try it one more time. All right. So this demo will walk through an end-to-end use case. We'll have personas like end users, IT operations folks, service desk workers, major incident managers, as well as executives. This will round out the day of life of how within the platform you can see how we're managing incidents, triaging them, using automation, workflow, and orchestration to actually, create an end-to-end task that helps the user. So let's look at this. So I'm Mr. Joe employee today. I'm actually having a problem. So within the self-service portal, again, whether it be mobile or on a laptop, I can go into the Get Help, and I can create an incident. I can select the urgency of this within a few drop-downs, and then quickly say my issue. In this case, my U.S. billing, access to the U.S. billing server is actually slower than normal. I can go ahead and submit this, and immediately what happens is, again, I'm giving an idea end-to-end of where this is in the process. So I can follow it any time. I can get status updates through the portal and, move on with my day and not worry about this and know that I'm going to be identified as things with this progress. Now, changing over to the IT operations persona, we have someone in ops that is actually monitoring the network, and they're seeing a couple things come through. They have an alert down at the bottom here, what's related to CPU usage, and move the screens. An alert related to CPU usage, and this actual alert was triggered through our machine learning on the IT operations side called operational intelligence. So it looked at an anomaly on the network, proactively raised this alert, and actually automatically generated an incident based on business rules that are in the system. This incident subsequently also through the ITSM machine learning capabilities called Agent Intelligence, automatically categorized this to the software team and then assigned it to the software group as well. You can see that here. Now that it's been categorized, we can see that it's landed in the service desk for software support. And we can look at Ethan. He goes into this, and you can see, okay, he sees this incident. It's come through. The first thing he does is looks at the configuration item related to the problem, the issue that we're seeing here, this incident. And he opens up the dependency view. This opens the service map so we can see the end-to-end relationship for this CI. And subsequently, if I hit the details button and come down and actually look at the related business services, I got an entire view of what this CI has in terms of relation to all the business services that it impacts. And if we see something here, I can click on U.S. billing. Remember, when the end user kicked off his issue, he was having access problems to U.S. billing. So we can see his issue could potentially be tied to the problem that we're seeing here. So this gives us a relationship of that business service directly to that configuration item. So Ethan closes that out. He says, determine the impact that this CI has across the business to all different applications is extreme. So he decides to go and promote this to a major incident. This then lands in the major incident workbench, and the major incident manager starts to see, he looks into candidates, clicks into this one that Ethan had just got in, looks, and he automatically knows the impact of this CI and immediately decides to promote this to a major incident. Once promoted, he can dive into the workbench, and this is one of the areas that I made mention to within the incident management component. But now, as part of Kingston, we introduced major incident management, which allows the ability to triage major incidents, which are issues that would normally take that next level above a standard incident, and bring in the proper folks to help remediate and troubleshoot the issue. So here, as part of this incident, we'll see a couple bits of information that are important. There's child incidents, and you can see here that incident 64, which is access to U.S. billing server slower than normal, this is our end user's incident. This happened to be associated with this top-level incident. So we have child incident relationships, we have the affected CI relationships, and impacted services all available through this workbench. We also have a variety of work notes that are logged throughout the entire process as we triage this major incident. The next phase here is normally would have been done through spreadsheets and multiple emails. We can do a number of different things. Because we have our major incident management teams together, we can send off technical communication to the team. And in this case, what it allows us to do is send very targeted information to the proper folks. So we're going to go ahead and send out that we're sending an issue, we're seeing this issue, there's a service interruption, and we really need to actually dive deeper into this. So once we kick that off, we can open up a quick mini chat and let the event management team or the IT ops team, let them know they've got to drill into this issue further. So very quickly, we are now able to, instead of actually sending a few emails, quickly able to just let our IT ops team know that they need to drill into this further. Ops picks this up and says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and investigate further. And by this, now they drill into this business service that they know has this impacted CI. If we come down here, immediately what the system does is, besides giving me a detailed service map of this service and the CIs that are relevant to it, it'll start to assign and look for a root cause in this case. And you'll see here it's identified % confidence that this is the issue impacting this business service. So what we can do here, I can go up and expand the timeline for this business service and look at changes, unrelated change requests directly in the timeline. I can actually scope the time frame, and I can compare these changes over that time frame and immediately look at, okay, if in fact we have a change or an unplanned change on a particular CI. So looking at that web server, we do see there's 2 changes done. If we dig a bit further and highlight it, we'll see there was actually a down rev of OS was done to that web server. So now we've determined that, okay, that's potentially the issue there. We can click on that CI and see that we have built-in remediation options in place. So we can either look and grab a log, but in this case, we know that restarting the Apache servers, in this case, will give us probably the proper operation here. Now, what did this just do? It jumped into the workflow so you could actually see what was done through here, which eventually is SSH to that Apache server, restarted, etc. This was all done through an orchestrated workflow on the back end, and even if needed, if needed, the proper, the proper approvals could take place. I don't know why that kicked out. Let me go back to where I was. To the workflow. Apologies here. So that remediation takes place. We see the workflow. It takes place. Now we can go ahead and move on and see that by restarting that Apache server, ops can then go back and say, okay, everything is cleared back up. All those services, including US billing, is probably good. Now our end user comes back, looks at his requests, and automatically he sees an update. So through the event management application, his incident was actually resolved as a result of the parent incident being resolved through that process. So ultimately, what does this provide? So we have John Clark, the executive, looking at his implementation of ServiceNow in the network, his ability to use incident change and bring these things together, as well as bringing in IT ops and ITSM together. It's really improving his service availability, is helping in reducing his cost of service, and ultimately raising customer sat across the business, which is ultimately what he wants here. So again, this was a quick demo of what that is, and with this now, I will actually send it back to Bruce so he can finish things off. Bruce?
Thank you, George. What I love about consolidating to a single system platform, or single system of record on a single platform, is seeing how the operations and services team have the same view and see the relationships between services and operations. I think that's so powerful, and just seeing how the workbenches bring people together along with the technology and really through workflows just make it so digitally transformed. I think it's awesome. Anyway, so let me get on. So consolidating to a single system is great. It unites IT to a single system of action. It automates repetitive tasks, prioritizes issues, and assigns resources. All this results in the increase of IT productivity by at least 20%, and customers can satisfy employees' needs. They'll see customer satisfaction scores rise by 6%, and meeting multiple SLAs, providing visibility, and continual service improvement. They'll see that all through automation. They'll see 20% of the most common processes automated. What's really great is that you can automate manual services and work with workflows and then reduce the effort that each incident requires by 66%. And then suddenly, IT goes from being 0 to hero by resolving issues faster, 10% faster, through the use of a consumer-like experience for requesting IT services. The financial side of benefits of switching to ServiceNow and consolidating to a single platform are huge. They're fantastic. When you consolidate to a single platform, service catalog, and system of action, you can realize savings of over $17 million in present value benefits, save $4 million in infrastructure costs, and see a payback period of 9 months with an ROI of 195%. All of this research and stats and figures come from the last 2 slides, come from research conducted by Forrester Consulting, and you can get this study and all of its financial framework from ServiceNow.com. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit, just talk about figures. Stats and figures are great, but what really makes the metal hit the road or the pedal hit the road, or I don't know that analogy, is how customers have benefited. In the process of switching from legacy on-premises solutions, Craft Brew Alliance switched to ServiceNow or went live in just 3 months with incident and asset management. And then within 2 months after that, released or deployed 3 more applications on the platform. Dell EMC deployed ServiceNow in just 6 months, which was a project that was estimated to take 14 months. And so half the time that they had projected to do their deployment, they did it in just 6 months. Just fantastic. And then our last customer success story, Experian, deployed ServiceNow across 26 countries in just 9 months, which is enormous and huge. If you haven't taken a look at our customer stories, we have really great success stories. Customers from commercial size all the way to the Fortune 100. So if you get an opportunity, check out on ServiceNow.com all of the customer success stories, videos, and briefs. So consolidating your services to a single system of action is great when you combine your services and your operations together. Having those 2 groups work on a single system makes it so that as CIs are discovered and populated into the single CMDB, that your services are now are aware of what's happening within the infrastructure. And then as George just showed in the demo, events happen, incidents happen, alerts happen, regardless of which team you're on, if you're on the operations side or on the services side. Teams know how and where to collaborate together. And the great thing about that is that relationship is no longer it's no longer bifurcated, but actually a single system from which to make change. And as George said, the CAB workbench is a great way to manage that change process. The Customer Success Center, another resource that's on ServiceNow.com, is a great resource for best practices. If you have any doubts or questions about how to plan your change, your digital transformation, the Customer Success Center has great content for deploying and optimizing and extending your instance throughout your environment. I highly recommend that you check it out. Along with the customer success stories, it gives a really good, nice, full understanding about the art of the possible as well as the reality of what's been done with existing customers. But to wrap up and to get us to Q&A, to continue your learning journey, I would ask you to check out our value calculator. A value calculator uses a framework for estimating the value benefit that your organization and your circumstances will get from ServiceNow. 4 million infrastructure savings may not be reasonable for your size of organization or your type of organization, but using the value calculator, you can get a much better estimate about how ServiceNow can benefit you financially and efficiently. Secondly, I'd ask you, again, to check out our stellar customer stories. The ServiceNow customers, the reason I came to ServiceNow is because of what I've read and what I understand now, having been here for a while, understand that customers love ServiceNow, and seeing is believing to me, and they're the proof. The last bit is that we have some really great demos on ServiceNow.com. So if you have the opportunity to test drive some of our ITSM demos, you'll really see quite a bit beyond just major incident management and change management, but mobile and a whole lot of other demos. And then again, we can say all the great things about ourselves, but to me, Gartner's position on where they placed us in the Magic Quadrant and the study that's behind the Magic Quadrant is really a third-party view of the service management realm, and seeing how our strengths and our competitors' weaknesses work together. Hopefully, you'll check that out and see what it's like. All of these resources are linked within the resource widget, which is in the bottom toolbar, and it looks like a sheet of paper. And with that, let's open it up for Q&A.
We're responding to any questions you may have. If you have a question, please type it into the Q&A panel, again, located on the left-hand side of your screen, and then click on that Submit button to enter your question in the queue. And with that, I'll hand things over to Bill and George to respond to any questions we may have.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks like we have got a couple of questions in line. First, Shauna's up with, looks like that ITSM and ITOM feel like half the story. Company achieve value with ITSM alone. If there's a phase plan, where ITOM must come in at a later phase due to budget constraints. Yeah, each customer, George, do you want to handle this question, or shall I?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, I think definitely each customer environment is different, and in many instances, starting with an ITSM implementation is a great place to start. There's by no means would both ITSM and ITOM be after force-fed together to kick off an implementation. In fact, starting with a strong ITSM implementation with a good CMDB really leverages itself to moving into an operational environment where ITOM can be implemented and take advantage to its highest levels. A good example of this is many customers may already have element management systems in their environment, and they could day one start implementing with ITSM. As they implemented ITOM, they could have used that to leverage and consolidate those existing element managements or point products to feed into the ITOM component to have more of the better together story as we just covered right now. Because together they absolutely do leverage the same CMDB, so that knowledge is there pretty much across the board. So folks in IT and Ops can share the same information without being siloed, which is really kind of what we were pointing out as being some of the problems in the past. But by no means would you need to initially start with both, but starting with a strong foundation ITSM and moving to adding ITOM in some of our other components as well, like our business management pieces, really kind of round out the end-to-end value proposition there. Bill, another question that I had seen come through was around with regards to major incident management, and if it's part of the base application or the pro component. Now, I'll just go ahead and answer that. Is that it's actually major incident management is part of the base ITSM component. So you get to leverage the workbench capability as well as all the major incident functionality right through as part of the base product. The other really neat thing as part of that comes with the major incident management is plugins and integration to conferencing tools. As you saw, I'm able to do a number of different types of technical communications, whether it be email, or a live conference. But as of New York, we're also able to integrate with other chat mechanisms like Slack. So you can go ahead and initiate a Slack message to a particular channel the minute there's a major incident, or keep constant communication via Slack in that manner. We've also built integrations to popular conferencing systems like Zoom. So when you do conference, you can kick in. We have also, as part of the New York release, integrated our Notify component. And now Notify comes basically as an add-on, as actually an integration there that is of no cost. So that whole Notify piece, you're able to look at what your roster looks like, who's on call, who's coming up if there are any conflicts, and they're able to pull those proper people that you need right into the major incident process. Now, Bill, I see another question that just came through.
Yeah, I see there's another question there at the top regarding major incident.
So Pete's asking, is there a specific class just for major incident management and also configurations? I'm looking for a deep dive into the communications part of it. So, there is a specific class for the communication configurations. It's, maybe what I can do is send you this information offline so you can get this, but I can send you to part of the configuration component. But it's actually for many of the configs, it's plug and play for some of the integration pieces. So what we can do is actually follow up offline. I can send you where some of that might get you more of a deep dive into how the communications piece works. Bill, there was another question that came through. It was really around the change management and how that's evolved since some of our earlier releases. I think it's important to highlight. So as we saw, the benefits of implementing change management with ITSM versus some of the legacy components, what we've done in New York is actually added a fully automated change management capability. This is really helping teams that are in DevOps environment. So we've created a whole new change policy component that, again, is available as part of the base package. And these change policies are available within the product, but also completely exposed via API. What that allows us, our customers to do is integrate with external tools like Jira, Jenkins, and GitHub to be able to actually send automated change requests directly from those external tools right into ServiceNow. And those integrations are actually built in part of an external package that's available on the store through DevOps, but the change management piece, which is basically the heart of that capability, is part of the base ITSM package. It allows our customers to go in and create, again, as I mentioned, a policy that would allow automated changes for any and all types of change processes, and those are completely customizable on a customer-by-customer basis. And I'll give you an example. You may have an enterprise that will allow UAT to go through an automated test at all times, so there's no rigor behind who needs to approve it. But any time that would need to go into production, it would then require an approval that would kick off through a different process. All that can actually be accomplished today with these automated change policies. So it's really it's a really neat addition to the change management component, and we're starting to see a lot of customers starting to leverage that again, both through their external tools that they have and within the product, utilizing our scaled agile component that's available on the ITBM side. So I guess another component here, Bill, that I see is that it's really kind of the difference between an incident, like a standard incident management, major incident management, right? I think this is a good question because a lot of folks they seem to think that they can take a standard response to both types. And kind of what we've classified it at here in ServiceNow is, standard incident is something that would go through the normal processes, probably not lead to an outage, if it wasn't dealt with in a timely manner. Whereas a major incident is something that would propose a potential threat to the business, outage on critical business services. And those can be managed separately from incidents. And as part of the major incident management component, we're able to actually look, not only identify, but track those through performance analytics. So, IT managers can go back and actually look at the differences, like the metrics behind how they're managing incidents versus major incidents. How major incident is tracking, what their mean time to resolution is specifically for that area. So there's a whole set of metrics that we've actually put behind the major incident process as well. And this happens to be something that a lot of customers, are using since we introduced it, I think, back in Kingston was the original introduction of this. The other question, I think this is just more for logistics, but Bill, will this session be posted anywhere? I'd like to share it with others on their team.
It will be posted in our on-demand library of webinars, and also across the bottom there's a widget that has links to other IT-related webinars that have been recorded. And if you want to refer to those now while you've got a little extra time, being around the holidays right now perhaps, you can check out those as well down in the bottom widget.
Thanks. And Bill, I know you touched on this, but maybe just as a recap, there's another question asking, where can I go find best practices for consolidating multiple tools? You mentioned that.
On ServiceNow.com, there's a specific section that is called the Customer Success Center. And it's for existing ServiceNow customers as well as customers of other ITSM solutions. But it does have a great deal of input or a great deal of content for planning your approach to making the change to ServiceNow if you're on some other solution, or if you are an existing ServiceNow customer, how to plan upgrades and how to plan your approach to increasing what you're using off of the platform. So check out the Customer Success Center. Excellent.
Thank you, Bill. There's one last question. It's really about how much of this functionality that we have today will be available in our new Now Mobile Now Mobile application, as well as the Now Agent mobile application. As well, it's part of Now Mobile. More so, it's tailored to the requester, but Now Agent, which is a current application that's available, and for Orlando will be completely updated as well. That'll be coming in a March timeframe. Actually will allow agents and managers to actually fully manage not only the incident management process, but also be able to look at major incidents, promote them, reassign them, update things. So it's actually quite a neat functionality that's coming within the new mobile agent app, as well as the ability to view all incoming change requests, approve them, reject them, etc. So some neat things coming in Orlando for the IT agent on the mobile side. So I don't see anything else, Bill. I think we can wrap up.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up. So thank you, everybody, for attending today. And I hope that you will, again, check out the on-demand library widget across the bottom. There's resources and links to further your education on ITSM. Also, please, again, check out the Customer Success Center if you're planning on making any change. Seeing how other customers have done it and seeing the best practices proposed by ServiceNow will make your change happen much more easily. Also, across the bottom, there is a survey widget. We would encourage you, please complete the survey. If you've got ideas about areas that you want us to focus on, put those in there because we do review those. Those don't go into a waste bin somewhere. We use those as guidance for how we're going to do our calendar for our webinars going forward. So please complete that survey, and for everyone there. So thank you so much for attending today, and we really appreciate your business and your time, and we hope that you have a happy holiday.